can go to it just like you're going to watch it. Just mute it. We're
Okay.
live now. 543-210. We're live. So, Nasia says, waiting for my 5D fix. I'm so addicted. She's a big supporter, and I appreciate that. All right, let me go in and see if it's all right. Let's see. Yes. So if you go to my page, it should be on my page now.
Okay, I'm trying.
Let's see.
Cooperate, internet, please.
Okay, yeah, we're on. It's either going to be at the top of the page or about 5 posts down.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so then if you just mute it, like I didn't, and then you can just click share, and you can share it to wherever you want to share it.
Yep, I'm working on it.
All right. Just give us about a minute or two, and we're going to roll the show out.
Awesome.
All right, let's just share it to some of our groups. Let's see. Action Planet. Try to spread it around a little bit.
Ooh, we've already got people too.
Yeah, I got 21 people. They're coming. Let's see. Maybe a couple more. All right. Hello, everybody. Got Michael Van Patten, Katarina Dalmore's in the house, Jerry Ann, Diana Beaumont, Melissa Brown, Donna Davin, longtime supporter, Heather Houston, Kristen Skilba, Allison Engel. All right, Amanda Lowe's.
I know some of those names.
Yeah, they're saying hello to you. Allison Engel's saying hello to you. And
I know. Hello, Allison.
Yeah, we had a great show with her the other day. She's got a very unique role in all this. A lot of people popping in now. So let's formally roll the show out. We're probably sitting about 5 miles from each other.
Yeah, we're practically neighbors.
Exactly.
Fellow islanders.
There you go. So today on Soul Speaks 5D, our last show of the day, unless we come up with something spontaneous later, is with Ameera Beth. A lot of people know her in these light worker circles. A lot of people know her in the islands. You've been down here doing work for quite some time. Welcome to the show. Thank you for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence.
Aloha. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a few weeks in the making. It's been a pretty wild, crazy ride here the last few weeks, hasn't it? Has it been for you?
Yes, it has.
Has it been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like totally feeling, more than anything, feeling chapters closing. Yeah. Like big chapters, like a whole book slammed shut around the first of the year, which I think is a theme for just about everybody.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of people, still is, a lot of people that are experiencing it in their body. Did you have any of that?
I didn't get too much with the body things. I usually get pretty lucky when it comes to my body itself and transmuting. My stuff is more spiritual and emotional, and just dealing with my own mind.
Yeah, exactly.
My own thought.
Now, you've been doing this work for quite some time, based on what I can tell. You've been in this
about 10 or 12 years.
Oh, wow. Have you been in Hawaii the whole time?
No, I just hit my 3-year anniversary of Kauai this month. Yeah. Before that, I was in Portland, Oregon. That's where I kind of got my start.
Yeah. We've had a few people on the show in the last 3 or 4 weeks that live in Portland. There must be a pretty big community there, expanding community there. It's always been a progression. For sure. Now, did you wake up in Portland? When did you wake up and figure out something else was going on?
I actually had my awakening in late December of 2004 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow.
And before I went back to Portland where I grew up, I was in Phoenix, and that's where the 2x4 hit.
So did you have, was it trauma induced like so many people's awakenings were?
God was trying to wake me up for a very long time, like he does with most of us, with the shoulder taps and the taps and the taps. And back before my awakening, I worked with my very first mentor, but before then I didn't know she was going to be my mentor. Her name is Amy Mace Farman, who you may want to interview at some point. And she was kind of like my counselor for all my psychic stuff and all my, things that I had going on in my life, preparing me for what was inevitably going to be my awakening. And when it happened, the final catalyst came through an Oprah show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
In late December of 2004, I was a mom living in the suburbs, driving a minivan, and on my second marriage, and had a little baby, like a little 1-year-old, and kind of thought that was my lot in life, was to be a wife and a mother. Never thought my life would be anything more than that, but and at the end of December, just before the New Year's, I was watching this show on Oprah. And it was a show about women around the world who were 30. And I was a little over 30 at the time. And so, the show kind of drew me in, and she had some of the women were on stage with her, and some of the women she Skyped in, and she interviewed them wanting to know what their life was like at age 30. And some of the women I had some things in common with, but most of them I did not. Like the woman in Rwanda who lived through the Holocaust, and all these women who lived through all these really oppressive, horrible atrocities, and tried to just but I found as I was watching her show that no matter how alike or different I was from those women, I felt I was them. Like every single looked in her eyes, and I felt like I never had an experience like that before. My girlfriends, not with anybody I was close to, but suddenly that woman's story, how alike or how different it was than mine, was my story. And I literally had a meltdown watching the show. Like I completely fell apart. I cried the entire hour, and I couldn't stop watching. And I didn't understand what was happening. And that what was happening is that was my first real legitimate connection, and to the goddess energy, and to hood, feels like without boundaries or barriers, and unconditionally. Lost my shit for days. Wow. And my husband came, my husband was around, and I was just crying, and he didn't understand why I was crying, and I didn't understand why I was crying. But for days, I just couldn't get those women out of my head because I just loved them. And so someone after that, the first of the year, 2005, gave me Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. And I started to read that and read about God as source and the law of attraction. And I was raised Catholic, Republican, so none of this stuff was even on my radar. And here I was hearing my name called in the middle of the night, thinking about these women, having all these experiences where I didn't feel like I was in my body any longer. And I didn't know it was happening. And I was I was a train wreck. So I went back to my friend Amy, and I sat down in front of her, and I started to cry as she's giving me the reading. I went to her for different life circumstances. And I said, Amy, I don't know what's happening to me. I watched this show on Oprah. I read this book, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't know what to do. And I'm crying. And she goes, oh, well, congratulations. I've been waiting years for this. You've woken up. And I looked at her and I said, put me back to sleep. I don't like it. She's like, nope. Once the awakening starts, there's no going back. And, you're here to be more than a wife or a mother. And I've been waiting for this to happen to you for years. You finally had your awakening. And she kind of laid out what the next months and years of my life were going to start to look like. And as she's telling me this, I'm looking at her like she has two heads, because who am I, right? And at the time I had a different name. My birth name was Elizabeth Ann. And over time, I changed my name, and I took my spiritual name, but as time went forward, pretty much everything she told me that was going to happen in my life started to evolve and study and read and out and denounce my Catholic religion. And kind of discovery of the divine feminine and the goddess, and looking at God as not just a male old man in the sky, but feminine faces of goddess. The whole thing was just, a big catalyst into what would eventually lead me to past life regression therapy, moving to Kauai, doing retreats, doing the clothing company, and all these things that I get to do now.
Wow. Now, somewhere along the line, you started to develop a connection with some different essences that are still very prominent with you. How did that happen, and what essences are they? What's that story about? I know there's an Atlantean aspect to it, or influence to it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Back in the beginning, when I become aware of my mer lineage, I'll call it my mer and my Atlantean lineage, I did it. And I didn't even know that's what it was called. All I knew is I would meditate and my arms would move independently. They would just move on their own, like something was coming within me, moving. And I soon found out that my whole body would take on these gentle, slowy, swimmy motions, my will, as if something was moving through me, creating this in my body. And I found that when I went next to people like my husband and made these circular spiral motions, I would start to relax him and take away his headache. Or them, and they would start to relax, or they would go to sleep, and people would just feel better. I didn't know what it was. I had no even concept that mermaids could be like a real thing. That Lemuria was. I'd heard of Atlantis, but it wasn't even on my radar. So I went to a past life regressionist, and I went into hypnosis and let this therapist take me into, I went directly into the mer realm. I went directly into the water and was doing this on the couch as she's talking to me, exclaiming, "I'm a mermaid, I'm a mermaid." And so we went through this session that began to open up my remembrance of my soul lineage and of this aspect that I carry that in this other realm who is known as Ameera. Okay. And the session changed my world so intensely and blew open everything I thought I knew about myself, certainly, and about reality, that I was driven to learn past life regression therapy, and I went through 3 levels of training with this woman because of the impact that it made on my life and on my soul, and how it changed, like how it opened up to me everything that would be coming, because I decided to say yes to the truth that I am a mer in a human body.
Wow. Now, is that what brought you to Kauai?
What brought me to Kauai was about 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, I took a swim on the Big Island with the dolphins. And I went and I saw Joan Ocean, who lives on the Big Island, and she does dolphin seminars. And I had a wonderful experience with dolphins. Home, after that summer, I really missed Hawaii. I really loved the whole vibe there, and getting this message in my head that said that I would be taking a group of women to Kauai and I would be doing a retreat. And I'd never been to Kauai, and I'd never done a retreat before. But this message wouldn't stop repeating itself, that that's what I was to do. And so I spoke with, I had a session with a friend of mine who is a trance channeler. And when the channel came in, I asked the question, will I be going back to Hawaii anytime soon? And going to Kauai and taking a group of women on a retreat. And I went, how did you know? So here I was, had this validation that I was to go to Kauai, get a group of women, do a water healing ceremony when I knew absolutely nobody here. And I had never done a retreat before. So I started on a wing and a prayer, just reaching out to anybody that I knew who had ever been to Kauai. Hi, you've been to Kauai. Do you know anybody there I can talk to about retreats? And through a friend of a friend, I was put in contact with a woman by the name of Jeannie Russell, who owns Dolphin Touch Wellness Center in Kauai. If you guys have been over on the east side, maybe been to her wellness center. But I called her up and I said, Jeannie, you don't know me, but God told me to go do this retreat on Kauai. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to come over and I need a place to stay. She says, yeah, come over. I've got connections all over the island and I've got an apartment that you can stay at for $70 a night. So boom, there it was. I had my contact. I got on a plane in January of 2014, came to Kauai, and in 4 days had this retreat laid out, launched the retreat on my website. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after that, I had 10 women signed up to go.
Wow.
And when we went in September of that year, I had 12 women. We came to Kauai. We did a water healing ceremony. And really from the moment that I knew I would live. I knew in that moment that.
Very cool. Very cool. You cut out a little bit, but I think you're on. You're still on, right?
Yep, I'm still on.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Now, you're a practitioner. I mean,
Yes.
you do energy work or some type of work with people. Can you tell us what you do?
Advanced level past life regressionist, which is a fancy word for just saying that I've been through 3 levels of training with my mentor, Julia Ingram, and I've been working as a professional hypnotherapist and past life regressionist for 10 years. I specialize in soul path activations, meaning if there's something in life you know that you're supposed to do and you want to connect with that, I can take you into a realm where your higher self and your guides can tell you how to execute it. And also the other thing that I'm kind of known for is helping other people who feel that their lineage is mer or fairy or star person or angelic, go in and merge with that aspect of themselves that's trying to work with them through the ethers and bring them their gifts and talents in that remembrance. I do energy too.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Oh, that's it. You go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, when you work with people to bring them in line with, in alignment with that aspect of themselves that's trying to work with them, do you ever find more than one aspect trying to work with them?
Absolutely. So we are multidimensional beings. There's really no such thing as past lives, which most people know. It's actually simultaneous lives. We exist in many realms and realities simultaneously. So avatars are aware of us, even if we're not aware of them because of the dimensions they're in. Most of them are kind of like a higher, quote, higher dimension than maybe we are on this earth plane. So we make agreements with them before we come in that I'm going to come do this earth thing as an aspect of all of us. And I'm going to need your gifts over here and your gifts over here and your knowledge. And at some point, we're going to do an integration so I can fulfill my human angel, whatever purpose in this reality through all parts of me that are wanting to come in and assist.
Very cool. Now, great explanation. Yeah, we watched a movie last night called Cloud Atlas.
Yes.
That was very, very timely with everything that's been going on here. And by the way, let me ask you, did you happen to see the portal that appeared above the place me and Morgan are staying at about a week ago? Did you happen to see it in the sky? No?
I didn't.
We're just wondering if anyone else could have actually seen it. So I don't know. I just thought I'd ask you since you're so close. Now, let me ask you about this. Since I've been here since 1st of November, and I've never really, I'm not really clued into a lot of this stuff, but there's been a lot of Lemuria, a lot of dragons. But my question is more revolving around Lemuria. Is Lemuria is that a part of why you came here Can you explain anything you might know from your perspective as far as the connection Lemuria has with the ascension?
So this is, Kauai is the heart of Lemurian. It's the heart of Lemurian civilization.
Kauai itself.
Kauai itself is the hub, the heart of the Lemurian civilization. That's why people are so drawn to come here, because their soul has a remembrance of having a lifetime in Lemuria. And it's very fifth dimensional energy, and the energy spins very, very fast, and we can create all kinds of stuff pretty epically here. My lineage is actually Atlantean. I am an Atlantean Mer. I was told or brought to Kauai because I act actually as a bridge between Atlantis and Lemuria.
Right.
Which Lemuria represents the feminine, Atlantis represents the masculine. And at some point, when these two continents, these two civilizations existed simultaneously, there was a war.
Yeah.
The earth, there was the very earth-loving, very simple, nature-oriented, high vibrational Lemurians, and then there was the more kind of scientific Atlantean brained. And the Atlanteans at one point in history, we'll call it, thought the Lemurians to be inferior to them and enslaved them. And there was a war. And when this war happened, it was devastating not only to this planet and to those civilizations, but it was a devastation that reverberated out into the cosmos. Yeah. And I believe there used to be the union between Atlantis and Lemuria for the masculine feminine split is microcosm that affected the macrocosm of the split between the masculine and feminine within us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So part of my role is to help bridge that, to help to heal that, like a liaison.
Yeah, that makes sense, like a bridge. Yeah. And so in that respect too, because it does seem to have a role, at least in my universe, recently with the whole ascension that's occurring. But with that, in that respect as well, what we're doing is not just correcting what's happened here on Earth, but actually what's happened at that macro scale that you're talking about as well, right? Right. Yeah. Now, so now let me ask you this. Do you have, I know you have a strong connection with Atlantis and with your Mer lineage. Do you have any connection? And if so, what, as far as galactic and star family?
My connection to the galactic and the star family, well, I feel that I am from Orion's belt. There's a planet there, a blue one, that I feel that my soul originated from. Mantinka is the name of it, I think.
Mantinka.
Yeah. So most of my remembrance and connection, though, is from being Mer.
Yeah.
Not so much from the stars and the galactic.
Let me ask you this: on this island, what's been your most significant divine episode? I'm just curious.
My most significant divine episode. I have had many experiences on or near the water where I feel my Mer family so strongly, especially Mahalapu. Have you been out to the Mahalapu area?
No.
I would love to take you and Morgan out there because it is the most Atlantean space on the island. That's part of the reason I moved to the South Shore a couple of months ago. When I am there in Mahalapu and there's a portal off the edge of the cliff by the water, I literally feel them so strongly that I'm ready to jump off the cliff and go back. Like it's really hard for me to stay here on this planet, on this island, because I feel them talking to me and communicating with me so intensely right there.
Yeah. Very interesting.
We have amazing exchanges.
Wow. Now, let me ask you too. You for most of the people I talk to, typically had that wake up experience around 2012, give or take a year or two. So
Yeah,
yours occurred in 2004, and
2004.
so I'm sure you were receiving lots of intel, not just on a personal level. Uh, were you getting stuff in regard to what was coming, a mass awakening, and that type of thing?
Only through books.
Mm-hmm.
I read like 300 books in the first 5 years I awakened. I felt like I had to like catch up on everything.
Mm-hmm.
My direct channel and my receiving didn't open up until I was a little further along in the path, and I'd go into trance, into hypnosis, and go retrieve information. And as I started to trust myself, trust my channel, and moved away from the books and went into my own direct meditations, as that was probably more like around 2011, 2012.
Yeah. Now, and then as far as seeing people, especially being a practitioner, your client base, I mean, or even your client base, are you seeing a rapid change in their own awakening? Are you seeing a rapid change in what's happening to the people that you're working with, your clients?
Oh, absolutely. Like how I used to help people is different. What people would come to me for is different. And so the level at which I meet people where they are at is a completely different like frequency than it was in the beginning. And I believe it's a match to my own, as I have leveled up and changed and shifted. Of course, people who vibrate towards you are going to be different as well.
Yeah. And have you had to deal with, like many of us, family and friends that knew you before and after?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I had my awakening and went back home to Portland and told my family, denounced the whole Catholic religion and tore up my baptism certificate, my kids' certificates, like I kind of flipped out a little bit. I went so extreme because my awakening hit me so hard that my family and some of my friends, they didn't even know what to do with me, and kind of understandably so.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just mention that, like, when I see how Doreen Virtue has done this 180 in her life, and how it feels so extreme to people, like I can't judge her, because what I did back then felt so extreme, I'm sure, to the people who are around me, and they judged me and didn't know what to do with me, that this is just an expression her soul is going through. Yeah. It's what her soul has decided to take as an experience, like we all do. And the more we just pay attention to our own lives, our own awakening, our own truth, the less stuff like that really needs to matter. It doesn't need to matter.
True. Now, you talked about the energies since the first of the year, and you talked about how you are affected more on an emotional level.
Yes.
A lot of people look at people like you, especially that have been awake for so long, and think they don't go through anything.
Oh,
do you still, like, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, have you gone through some ups and downs?
Actually, what I've gone through in the last 3 or 4 weeks has been really liberating. I have actually gone through an initiation and a liberation. But what comes along with an up level, even if it's a positive one, is you leave certain people and things, and especially thought process, behind. Yeah. And leaving behind those tethers and those beliefs of that old identity, and acting in that old identity, has probably been the hardest thing for me to really step into the light that's being shown on me now, and the path that's being shown on me now, and be okay untying myself from those old thoughts and that old identity.
Does it bring a little sadness?
It does. It brings, okay, I'm going to tell you, it brings mostly joy.
Yeah.
Because what's waiting for me, what I've been told now is coming for me, is what I've worked my whole life for. My whole awakening has been about what I feel is coming in 2019 and beyond.
Yeah, Grace Solaris wrote a post today. I started getting a little bit of a download today. I had to lay down, and I really couldn't do it very long because I had a show coming, and I opened Facebook, and she wrote a post that pretty much talked about that, how the missions were clear now.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of been going through some stuff here, obviously, Morgan and I, and that's kind of where it's headed to. Has been we really don't have any choice anymore. That by one way or the other, we're being put into this space of where our missions are clearly defined. Is this what you're referring to? And on top of that, do you feel like that something has shifted in a huge way since the first of the year?
Absolutely. Yes to all the above. For me personally, the trust that I have had in this island and in my experiences on this island that have been very, very up and down. It's possible to be perfectly miserable in paradise. But because I have believed and trusted and stayed positive, the foundations that I have laid and the clearing that I have done in my field, in my everything, the fruits of that are going to present themselves very, very soon. And I think that's part of what the Awakened Collective is about ready to experience as well. There's kind of two camps now. Like there's the new earth is not, it's not 5D and 3D. We've made a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you made a choice, then keeping both feet firmly planted, so to speak, in 5D earth and facing forward and being okay with letting go of everything we really know, our soul knows it's really completed, is imperative.
Yeah. And you mentioned being miserable. I know that's an extreme description, but for yourself and right. For yourself and maybe those out there that are going through that, how do you get through that? How do you process through that?
Okay, so one example for this would be is my first year on Kauai, I moved 6 times. And when humans are driven for survival and security, for the most part. We don't like to travel with our home on our back like a turtle. Me anyway. We don't like that for the most part.
How long was the period that you moved 6 times?
1 year. In 1 year, I moved 6 times.
I think I've been here 2 months, and I moved 6 times.
And but that's part of the Kauai initiation. Like this island will really be like, well, I want you here, but I'm gonna make you work for it a little bit. And so, how I managed to move through any difficult time in my life in general is, okay, number one, you got to have your 911 people. You got to have community. You got to have tribe. You've got to have people you can call up and say, I'm losing my shit. No matter how evolved you think you are, you've got to have those people that you can trust and turn to when you need somebody to tell you it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So I've always had that, and I've never been afraid to use them or to be there for them when they have their 911 moments.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And no matter how evolved you think anybody out there is on Facebook or social media or anywhere, we all have meltdowns. Every single one of us loses our shit, and it's okay. So there's that. There is going out in nature and breathing and meditating and being in my happy place, which is obviously the ocean, and really letting the island or spirit reassure me that like it's going to be okay, and tethering to that trust that everything's temporary, it all passes, and it's going to be fine. And usually I think what we find when we have a big meltdown or a big breakdown or a crisis is there's a breakthrough on the other side. Like something really cool happens on the other side. So sometimes our body knows some big change is coming in. Our physical body does, and our spirit doesn't know how. We don't know how to handle like all the energy and all the emotion. It already knows it's fine, but the body's freaking out.
Yeah.
Because the body thinks it's losing something. And so when those two, when it all plays out and when it all comes together and the body goes, oh, okay. And the mind says, oh, well, there was the answer the whole time. Why did I get so manic?
Exactly.
And then laughing at yourself. Instead of being mad and laughing at yourself. Instead of being mad, instead of like beating yourself up, be highly amused at your own self.
Now, did you, when you came over here, were you like a lot of our brothers and sisters out there, where you are the turtle or whatever you said, and you don't have the security that you're talking about, the survival, the security. How do you operate in that zone where there's no guarantees in the next, week or month, or just the moving around and all that stuff?
It is going into the infinite trust that I was called here for a reason. It's not going to abandon me.
Yeah.
I'm here because it was very clear to me when I was told to move to Kauai, when I knew I would, that I would be here and I would build my fishy empire, that this to be. And I always had to go back to that if I completely kept that channel clear and open and trusted God's plan that was not shown, everything would work itself out. And so it has. I've received many miracles, what felt like miracles, and validations that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
As are you.
Yeah. For how long, I don't know. I have no idea.
For now.
It doesn't feel permanent, I'll say that, but it doesn't, I'm just going with it. I was called here too, but
well, and it could be that you guys were just called here to pick up a bunch of energy and meet people and create something different than you're creating on the mainland. And when it's time to do something different, that's what'll happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we have had some pretty extraordinary experiences here. We have pretty much everywhere we went, but there's been some, definitely some that were of a Lemurian. They were definitely Lemurian. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But it's
you guys are
to me,
superstar people.
What's that?
You're superstar people. You're supersized star people.
Well, the thing is, for me, the island has been less, although it's physically beautiful. I mean, there's no question about it. We haven't seen a whole lot of it, but to me, it's been more of an energetic experience. Like, just being here, it's the energy, and like the place that we're at right now, it's full of, it's been profound. It's just like a portal, really. I mean, it's more than a portal.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as your mission, I know in terms of being the bridge from the Atlantean and the Lemurian, consciousnesses or civilizations. What is the rest of your mission? What else are you focusing on as time goes forward?
My mission, I feel my only mission, my number one mission, is to be presence and be love, and to help people realize their presence.
Yeah.
And their love being. How I'm going about doing that is, one of the main ways I go about doing that is helping people connect to and actually live and do their own individual purpose, and help show them how they can do that. Practical, physical, earth ways that they can do that. Also helping people connect to those other aspects of themselves that really are here to be helpers, and integrate those parts of their soul, their oversoul, that are here to help them be of service. And then, I do the clothes, I do the wisdom wear, and sacred geometry is my world. And so helping people learn about sacred geometry and how to work with it and through it. In teaching classes, I teach sacred geometry online. And the next thing that I'm about ready to bring out is called the Atlantean Art of Self-Healing. I'm actually writing a book and launching a training program for teachers and healers, or anybody who wants to learn how to activate, cleanse, and clear their 13 chakra and their auric field, and basically learn to be sovereign and care for themselves. We all need to learn how to take care of our body as energy. And most people don't even understand that We have not 7 major chakras. There's 13 in our aura. And they're multidimensional around us. They're not linear. Mm-hmm. And when we can learn to access ourselves as multidimensional beings through our auric field, because that's our sacred space, right? Your aura, that's our sacred space. And when we can learn to clear that, to heal that, to activate our sacred soul chakra, which is the 13th chakra, and take care of ourselves, that allows us to go forward into the world and into our purpose and into life as more sovereign, healthy beings overall. So I'm going to do a course in February called The Atlantean Art of Self-Healing. It's a 3-week, 3-module courses, 3 Sundays in a row for a few hours, where I will actually take people through the Atlantean system of the 13 chakras, the wisdom and the knowledge of Atlantis, and help people take care of themselves. And then there will be a book, like a how-to manual that eventually comes out around that as well, for people to pick up and take care of themselves. I'll do a lot of channeling from Atlantis and the Mer world and answer questions and things like that. So that's the next big project from Ameera coming through.
Very cool. Now tell us a little bit about the clothing. I'm not familiar with that. So okay, you make clothing with sacred geometry?
So I'll show you a shirt. Okay. So everything is sound and vibration. Everything is math. Everything is geometry. So I take sacred geometry and infuse it with Andara crystal dust. So there's actual crystal dust in my clothes in the ink. I micronize it into dust and mix it into the ink, and then screen print sacred geometry onto organic bamboo and hemp clothing.
Wow. So
Metatron's cube, flower of life, this is the Om symbol. Obviously, these are all parts of sacred geometry. And I actually have Metatron's cube. My whole back is Metatron's cube, because Metatron and I are very, very close. He's one of my mentors. And he told me years ago, put my cube on your back. And I was like, what? My whole back? He says, yeah, you'll understand later. You don't say no to an archangel. So I did it. So I have this picturesque, this beautiful piece, Metatron's cube with all the elements in it. And it's this beautiful, beautiful artistry piece. Then after I moved to Kauai, I bought wisdom wear. It's called Wisdom Wear. And launched this crystal-infused sacred geometry clothing company out to the world, so that I could bring sacred geometry out to the collective on a massive scale.
Wow! Now, I was going to ask you this. You may have already answered it with this communication from Metatron. But how did you come up with the idea of infusing the Andara into the ink and putting this clothing line together?
Well, I wish I could say I came up with it, but I didn't. I actually met a guy on the island right after I got here who owned the company. And I started selling clothes for him. He was just kind of playing around with it. He hadn't done much with it in a couple of years because he was doing other things. And I started selling clothes for him. And one day he looked at me, he said, you love this? You're better at it than me. Buy my company. So I did. So I bought all the intellectual property, and he taught me how he went through his process of micronizing crystals. And at the time he was doing a quartz mixture, which was a lot of work to micronize into dust. And then I came across the Andaras, and the Andaras asked me to utilize them, and they're much easier to micronize into dust. And bought the company from him, did a relaunch, rebranded, and away I went. And Wisdom Wear is doing phenomenal, amazing things for the world, not only through the geometry, but allowing the Andaras to go out to people on a massive scale, because they work on your heart and your DNA directly. They are an ascension crystal, or they're actually a form of monatomic glass that is and they're Lemurian. I remember the Andaras from working in the temples, from being in the temples in Atlantis. They would illuminate, these brightly colored Andaras would illuminate the healing caverns in the temples. And I was told that they were a gift from the Lemurians to the Atlanteans to help them to remember their fifth dimensional consciousness as they were in a third dimensional body. So I used to see these crystals, these Andaras, and I didn't know what they were in regressions, but later, years later, when I found the Andaras and kind of got into them, I realized that's what we were utilizing as a light source and an energy source. And another kind of interesting thing I'll share with you about the Andaras, the first Andara was found on a Choctaw medicine woman's property named Lady Nellie. The first Andara was found in February of 1967, which is the year and month of my birth.
Now, where was that Choctaw woman at? Was it in the mainland?
In Sierra Nevadas.
Okay.
In the Sierra Nevadas. So the first one. So I have a very special connection with them.
Now, when you say they're Lemurian, and I've heard different things about Andaras, did they originate in Lemuria, or is that even possible? I mean, did they originate out in the cosmos?
The out in the cosmos is what I believe. The Andaras are kind of like light trapped into matter. If you've ever held one, their coloring is very unique. Their vibration is very unique. They are literally like light condensed into matter. I believe they originated from the cosmos.
Yeah. And then Morgan's asking, do you have a shop here on the island?
I have an online store, wisdomware.org, or I do the markets around the island. So First Saturdays in Kapa'a is coming up next weekend, and I go to Princeville, and then I carry clothes in the back of my car because people are like, I need a shirt. And I say, step into my office and open the back of my car. We do shirt deals. And so I always have shirts with me. And then I wholesale also. I've got some different wholesale accounts on the mainland and on the Big Island. And some big things are coming up for Wisdomware, big opportunities to really bring my vision to bring crystal infused sacred geometry clothing, conscious clothing worldwide this year.
Now, are you doing what do you call it? How are you infusing? You're using dye to garment? Are you using the other methods? One of the other methods. There's heat transfer, dye to garment, and
you mean how am I doing the screen printing?
Oh, screen printing. Yeah.
I got a guy in Hanapepe who does my screen prints.
But that's the process you're using, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a silk
Very
screening.
Very
Yeah.
Cool.
With the crystal already infused in the ink.
Jennifer Graham's asking, can you repeat your online store name? And I would just also tell you, make sure you put your links up in the comments when the show's over for anything or anywhere people can find you, be it for the clothes or otherwise.
So AmeeraBeth.com will take you to my website. The company is called Wisdomware. I have that website, but if you go to AmeeraBeth.com, then you can go to my shop and you can see everything that I've got available.
Very cool. Very cool. Right on. So are there any major events or functions that you've been involved with here or that you're involved that happen, quarterly or monthly or annually?
You mean on the island or just kind of in general?
Well, I meant on the island, but in general too.
Did you?
Either way.
I do anytime there is some kind of a craft fair or a big event on the island, I try and participate in that and be out in community. But other than kind of in general worldwide that I'm invited to participate in, I'm always happy to do so. Is
there a pretty big community of light workers on Kauai?
I would say so. I would say that there is, you kind of can't swing a dead cat here without hitting a healer. Which you probably found. That does something in that realm in one respect or another.
Yeah. I've kind of noticed other places I've been, there's usually two communities. There's one that's kind of more of a social scene, and then there's another one that's more legit. I don't know how it is here because I haven't been out that much.
Well, there's all of the above, and actually on the South Shore where you and I live, The metaphysical culture here is practically non-existent. On the east and the north is where, where more the healers are and the conscious community and all of that. The South Shore is a little bit more mainstream and 3D, but that's why I came here.
Yeah.
Because I want to bring it. There's the Crystal Bowl Shop, Crystal Harmonics, that does a lovely meditation on Wednesday nights. But other than that, there's not much metaphysical culture on this part of the island. But I feel like I'm going to be able to, open up a little hale, a little store, and get that going.
Very cool. This is great. This is great. We should get together. I'm sorry we couldn't join you last night.
And we definitely will. After we finish here, I'm going to go down to the beach and watch the sunset. I do that often in the evenings. You guys are welcome to join me at any time, or we can just go out and do an adventure together. Go out to Mahalapu, to the labyrinth, whatever rings your bell.
The labyrinth, what's that like?
There's a labyrinth at the edge of the sea, at the end of the Mahalapu Trail. You know what a labyrinth is, yeah?
Yes.
And so there's a man who 3 or 4 years ago built this beautiful rock labyrinth in dedication to his wife who died of cancer, because she loved that area of the island. So I go out there and walk that often. I bring my retreat groups there, and we set intentions and walk the labyrinth and make an offering in the middle at the altar. And it's a very potent spiritual space for me.
Wow, very cool. We might have to take you up on that one.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us today. I look forward to meeting you.
I look forward to meeting you and Morgan as well.
Yeah.
Like, we're so close, so let's just make it happen.
We definitely should do that. So I'm going to put you two together and let y'all figure it out.
Morgan, I sent her a friend invite, so we'll.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We'll be the cruise directors.
Yeah, that would be cool. And then maybe to do a little broadcasting, spontaneous broadcasting from the labyrinth.
That would be
or someplace like that. Yeah. Very cool. I really, really enjoyed this. It was a great way to end the day of broadcasting. Coming back tomorrow with 4 or 5 shows. I look forward to meeting you and collaborating with you again in the future. So,
mahalo, Todd.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry it took so long for us to get together.
Hey, that's okay. We did it. Divine timing, and it's all good. I had a good time tonight. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. You take care. Peace out. Best to you.
Aloha.
Aloha to you. You take